What's up, guys? How's it going? Mr. Arnold sliding back in here for another episode of History Comes Alive. And for today's episode of History Comes Alive, ladies and gents, we are going to be looking at nationalism in Europe, okay? Nationalism in Europe between the years 1800 up and until the start of World War I. In 1914. We're going to separate this video into three distinct segments. The first segment is going to be talking about background knowledge of nationalism, what you got to know before we dive into more specific examples, okay, in specific countries. That's going to be the first segment. We're also going to be looking at the geography associated with nationalism. Next, ladies and gents, we're going to be looking at German nationalism in segment number 2, and then in segment number 3, we are going to be looking at Italian nationalism, ladies and gents. Alright, so keep in mind what nationalism is, which is the pride that one has in one's country, ladies and gents. And make sure you're watching and taking copious notes, alright? There's a lot of great stuff yet to come in this video. See you soon. What's up, guys? How's it going? Mr. Arnold jumping back in here for this first segment. In this first segment, let's talk about background knowledge as well as geography, okay? Remember, nationalism is the belief, all right, in strong values, all right, the certain pride you have in one's country, okay? Keep that in mind. You might be thinking, Mr. Arnold, that sounds very, very similar to patriotism. And you're right. Nationalism and patriotism are very, very similar. However, patriotism, when someone is very patriotic, that is often tied into a core principle or idea associated to that one person's country. So for example, here in America, all right, we like our freedoms, we like our liberties, okay? That would be an example of how patriotic we are in terms of how far we'd go to protect those certain freedoms and liberties, all right? It would show how patriotic we are, or how patriotic our country is to go to great lengths to protecting those core values. Remember, nationalism is the pride one person has in their country. We're going to be talking about that right here. Also, before we specifically dive in here, I want you guys to remember the term unification, okay? Because in not only Germany, but also in Italy, we see unification take place. Unification take place. And because they're going to unify based on similar culture, similar language, or similar beliefs, ladies and gents, they are going to become almighty powerful countries that are ultimately going to lead us into not only World War I, but also World War II. So I just have given you guys three good definitions there. Make sure you're writing this down, all right? It's very important. Let's specifically dive into the geography. Whenever we talk about nationalism, I want you really guys to focus right here, all right, on the continent of Europe. We're going to be specifically talking about two countries in this video, specifically Germany and Italy right here, okay, guys? And I want you to remember, all right, before these countries unify and they become great, powerful countries in the world, I want you guys to keep in mind a few things, all right? The time period. Before they do this, ladies and gents, it's right around the time of the Congress of Vienna. Remember, there's this crazy short guy that was trying to conquer all of Europe, and he was trying to create the French Empire and make it very powerful. All right, his name was Napoleon. However, he was very successful at the beginning of his run. However, at the end of it, the French Empire was starting to crumble, and as a result, the French gave him the boot, all right? Not only once, but twice. But that's beside the point. What I want you guys to remember is that the Congress of Vienna, after Napoleon's run throughout all of Europe, they're going to try and do two things. That first thing that they're going to try and do is they're going to bring back old regimes to power. So we're going to see maybe monarchies come back to power in certain places like France, maybe Germany, and Austria. In addition to that, ladies and gents, we are also going to see, all right, a balance of power, all right, a balance of power. We're going to have the German Confederation, Austria, France, Spain, Italy, Prussia. They're all going to share the same amount of power. However, we know as human beings that cannot be achieved. Why? Because we are extremely greedy and we are extremely competitive, ladies and gents. It's going to lead to competition, and this ultimately is going to tie into unification and nationalistic movements that form not only in Germany, but also Italy. Okay, so keep that in mind. those specific perspectives and components and elements that are going to be tied into nationalism and the movements that set across not only in Europe, but also throughout the world. All right, that's all I got for you for this first segment where we're talking about the background knowledge and geography of European nationalistic movements. I hope you guys are still watching. There's a lot of great stuff to come in the second and third segments. See you guys soon. Woo! What's up, guys? How's it going? Mr. Arnold actually sliding back in here again, okay? And in this second segment, ladies and gents, we are going to be talking about German nationalism, okay? There's a couple key concepts I'd like you guys to remember, all right? The first being this. In Germany, right before they became unified, okay, there was a push for a new term called Realpolitik to take shape within the government, okay? Realpolitik. And it was based on the desires of the greater community, the greater country, all right? Then necessarily the desires or the certain laws that would address right and wrong issues, okay? It was basically centered on the good of the community. Whatever the majority of the community believes, that should be what is enacted and put into law. And the person that's going to use Realpolitik to his benefit is a guy by the name of Otto von Bismarck, okay? The Iron Chancellor. He was not a Kaiser, which was someone who was a ruler, emperor in Germany. He was not a Kaiser, all right? But he's considered to be the Iron Chancellor. He was one of the prime ministers for Prussia, and he's going to be the guy that's going to be he's going to be the guy that's remembered, that's a better way of putting it, remembered for unifying all of Germany, okay? You see, remember, from the Congress of Vienna, guys, Napoleon, all right, he was the one that was going to reign terror all throughout Europe. And after the Congress of Vienna, they did not unify Germany. You had the German Confederation and Prussia. Well, Otto von Bismarck, ladies and gents, is going to fight many wars with Austria, with France, guys, and he's going to unify what is Germany today. He's going to unify Prussia with the rest of the German Confederation, and he's going to win many important wars, such as the Franco-Prussian War, that will allow him to do that. He's going to be able to do this because he's going to motivate, ladies and gents, the masses of German people through a speech called Blood and Iron. Blood to him symbolizes the sacrifices people had to make in order to create a militarized state in Germany, to make a superior army and navy over other foreign countries. Iron, ladies and gents, was von Bismarck's push for industrialization, okay? His push to do industrialization, create industrialization in Germany and make it rival that of England's economic progress. Even to this day, guys, Germany is one of the world's best economies. It has one of the greatest groups of engineers in the world. Think about all the great cars that come from Germany. This is all going to get kick-started because of von Bismarck, okay? During this time, also in Germany, they like to refer to this time as the Second Reich, all right? The Reich is an empire during German times. It's a German empire, really, okay? We have the First Reich, which is the Holy Roman Empire. The Second Reich is going to be Imperial Germany during Otto von Bismarck's time, where we see imperialism take shape, which is basically the taking over or colonization of outside lands, not only in Europe, but also in Africa, as well as Asia, ladies and gents. All right, but the big thing to keep in mind with Otto von Bismarck is that he's going to unify Germany through blood and iron, okay? After Otto von Bismarck, okay, we're going to have a absolute monarch called Wilhelm II. Wilhelm II is going to take over, all right, as Kaiser, ladies and gents. Remember, ruler or emperor. He's going to be called Kaiser Wilhelm II, all right? And he's going to essentially change Germany's government from that of a constitutional monarchy now to an absolute monarchy. Wilhelm II is going to be noted for militarizing Germany, making it a military power. Von Bismarck made it a military power, but he's going to put him over the top. During Wilhelm's reign, we're going to see inventions that are going to change warfare forever, like the howitzer cannons or machine guns, right? Certain boats or vessels that the Germans are going to create is going to give them an edge in terms of naval superiority. But the big thing to keep in mind with Wilhelm II, ladies and gents, is that he is going to basically help lead us into World War I, all right, and the end of the Second Reich in Germany, all right? What I want you to remember is that remember in the Congress of Vienna, where we're supposed to see old regimes come to power, where we're supposed to have a balanced power in Europe? We're not going to see that anymore. Because countries like Germany are fighting and competing with each other because of the Industrial Revolution. All right? They're creating bigger armies, and as a result, ladies and gents, these bigger countries are going to be looking for basic ways to survive. They're going to create alliances, and eventually what's going to happen with Wilhelm II in Germany is that Europe is going to become divided. You're going to have people that are going to join England or join Germany, and they're going to go head to head in World War I. All right? And that's going to lead us into the end of the Second Reich and Germany's reign as being the imperial power in Europe. All right, that's all I got for you guys for the second segment. I hope you guys are still watching. There's a lot of great stuff to go. We got one more segment left, the third segment, dealing with Italian nationalism. I'll see you guys on the flippity flop. What's up, guys? How's it going? Mr. Arnold jumping back in for this third and final segment. We're almost done, guys. All right, we're going to be talking about Italian nationalism, okay? And Italian nationalism's going to be a little bit different, but also very similar to German nationalism, all right? One way is that it's very similar, ladies and gents, is that we're going to see unification, all right? We're looking here up at the map, right? You're going to see that in Italy, at one point or another, it was very fragmented, all right? Fragmentation is basically the breaking up of different nation states within one region, which is what we see here on the Italian peninsula, ladies and gents, right? At one point, Italy was made up of different nation states. You had the Kingdom of Naples, which was the southern part. You had the Papal States, which is below, or above that, I'm sorry, north of that, and incorporated Rome as well as many other kingdoms. All right. However, as Europe was kind of transitioning, ladies and gents, and becoming more united, the certain cultures of different countries and people were becoming more united. You know, Italy started to scratch its head and say, well, why not us, okay? And that's where we're going to get started today. So remember that fragmentation first arose in Italy, and it was always really around, okay? Ever since the Roman, Holy Roman Empire, or the Roman Empire for that matter, okay? So let's look at this a little bit more. There's going to be 3 ODFPs that we're going to specifically look at. The first one that I want to talk about is Count Camilo Cavour, the brain, all right? And looking at this picture, you see that this guy's got a pretty big brain, okay? He's got a very big head. He was a skilled diplomat, all right? Living in Italy. He was a statesman living in Italy who tried to convince, and basically was successful in doing it, the rest of Italy to join as one unified nation state, all right? He was able to ward off a war with Austria by receiving help from the French, and was able to put into power Victor Emmanuel II to throne, all right, and creating a constitutional monarchy, ladies and gents. So don't forget about the influence that Camilo Cavour put forth, all right? Next, we're going to be talking about the soul, okay, the soul. That's Giuseppe Mazzini, ladies and gents. Giuseppe Mazzini was considered to be the soul of Italy because, like Cavour, they worked together on establishing a unified nation state here in Italy, making Italy one country. All right, he created a group of people called Young Italy, which basically was an organization, ladies and gents, an organization that fought for a unified Italy. All right, and last but not least, we're going to be talking about the sword. Giuseppe Garibaldi, ladies and gents. He was a leader of an army called the Red Shirts, who were in favor of a unified Italy. And he's going to basically work for not only Cavour, but also Mazzini. He's successful in conquering or defeating enemies to the unified nation movement. And eventually, ladies and gents, Italy, which once looked like this, a area that was fragmented with many different nation states, has now turned into this, a unified country, one country that is unified. Now, what you may be asking, Mr. Arnold, is why did they decide to do this? And this is very important. Italy shared an identity. Italians, they shared the same identity. There was an identity shared amongst all people, from the bottom of the peninsula as well as Sicily, all the way up to the top. Okay, and this is the the identity that they shared. They had a similar culture. They obviously spoke the same languages. All right, they shared many traditions and customs, and as a result, guys, they said, we're tired of fighting, let's join together and become unified, ladies and gents, all right? So that's what you got to remember about Italy, is that they were unified based off of their culture, okay? So that's what I want you guys to remember about the Italian nationalistic movement, okay? That's all I have for you for this video, dealing with European nationalism, specifically Germany and Italy. That's all I have. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them. I try and get back to any of you guys that try and get to me. If you liked it, feel free to like it. Don't forget to subscribe, and hopefully, guys, I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Mr. Arnold signing out. See you guys later.